to the next episode of SIF Island Voices, our mini podcast series where we speak to people from Scotland's islands, hear their stories, experiences and perspectives on island life. This time we're joined by Adele Lidderdale, one of the newest directors on the SIF board. Adele is from Orkney and has a strong interest in policy, sustainability and the future of island energy systems. She's a hydrogen lecturer at UHI, working through the Islands Growth Deal Talented Programme to explore and develop hydrogen opportunities from an island perspective. We are delighted to have her here with us today. Adele, can you start by introducing yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Adele Lidderdale and I'm based here in Orkney and I live on the mainland of Orkney in Kirkwall.
Have you ever lived off island and what made you want to stay in Orkney?
Yeah, I have gone once. I went away to uni the first time, that's what I call it, when I was 17 and I went to live in Edinburgh for a year, but I couldn't cope with the pace of city life. So I came back to the island and yeah, I've lived here ever since. I think just the pace of life in the islands really suits me, but it hasn't harmed my career. I went back to uni through the UHI and yeah, I've had a great opportunity to kind of just explore opportunities that have come to the island with various things, and yeah, I just enjoy the kind of safety and low crime rates and the access to the outdoors, and living close to family, and these are kind of the things that, you know, enrich my life, and that's why I like staying in the Isles.
Is all your family from Orkney?
I've got a mixture. So my great-great-grandfather was from Hoy in Orkney, and I do have family in Shetland as well. So I have the genetic family heritage from various islands, which I do wonder if that's what makes me like living here. I feel like, yeah, that I've kind of, I don't know, grown into my niche, my habitat, if that makes sense. So yeah, we have this family history in the islands, but a few generations have lived off the island. But we kind of like exploring the heritage a little bit together, sometimes as well, and finding relatives and things like that. So it's quite nice from that perspective to have a foot on and a foot off.
Yeah, it's nice to have that family tie to the islands and have that history.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice. Can you explain what you do for work and what does a normal day look like for you in Orkney?
Yeah, so I've just finished my PhD. So I was working from home for the last 3 and a bit years, really deep in research, and I was looking at the kind of policy angle on islands. So my past is working on renewable projects, particularly from that community perspective. And we would find as we were trying to integrate these projects that we were always coming up against different legislative barriers or different regulatory barriers. So I thought through the PhD it would be a good opportunity to look at that aspect of the projects. So I was looking at the implementation of the National Islands Plan, and then I'm now a hydrogen lecturer as part of the Talented Programme, which is part of the Islands Growth Deals. So it's paying forward some of that learning from the projects and developing curriculum for islanders to support young people or stay on the islands or move to the islands, but also a little bit around the reskilling aspect of what jobs are likely to be in the islands to support our continued well-being. So that's the kind of day-to-day, but it's pretty varied. So there's a lot of development, speaking to different companies, different universities, and then yeah, developing the curriculum and some lecturing. So it's nice and varied. Yeah, putting all those skills to use.
So is it a range of different universities you work with rather than just one?
Yeah, so the project itself, we have Heriot Watt, Robert Gordon, and then it's managed through the UHI. But I'm working with my UHI colleagues from Shetland and the Western Isles as well. So it's really nice to have the link up between islands, because it's not really the way that we usually work. Often each island's doing things separately, and I think, you know, from Our Islands, Our Future in 2013 and the National Islands Plan, there's a bit more work being done around what are the common challenges. And I think it's great that you can sort of give your problems a bit of scale if more than one island is saying the same thing. So I'm working with, you know, the different UHI campuses and then other projects will have, different universities looking at island issues as well. So we're really able to give, that island flavour from within the islands, researchers and institutions based on the islands, which I think is so important when we're looking at our island matters.
So that's all online then?
A mixture, so we're still kind of developing the programs, but yeah, a lot of the outreach is online or we'll be at industry events and meet in person. We have travelled up to Shetland, we've travelled over to the Western Isles, so it's really nice to kind of turn up in person as well. But yeah, uh, even through my undergrad, through the UHI, being able to access content online has really helped me, do my undergrad, do my masters, do my PhD. If I didn't have access to that online learning environment, I just wouldn't have been able to do it in the same way. So yeah, we're in that hybrid space, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would think as much as COVID was a horrible thing, sort of the facilities in terms of online stuff and that aspect has opened up so many doors in terms of remote learning and not having to go to in person all the time, or everyone's a bit more accustomed to Zoom meetings.
Yeah, it's true, and you can sort of turn up in places that you wouldn't have been able to get to. So I think that's really good. And I think, in a way, having access to other communities. So, kind of doing the PhD, my community's always been one of place, and you are a community member, sometimes against your will, whether you want to or not. But that actually, kind of outside the island setting, often a community is more of a shared interest. So having that online space lets us link up with other communities and share in between, where you probably would have been a bit more isolated before. So I totally agree. Yeah, having access to off the island digitally is really good as well.
What is one thing that you love most about island life?
It's so difficult. I know it sounds silly, but it's like the sea. I think you don't really realise it because you take it for granted, but you can almost see the sea from everywhere in Orkney. But you don't just see it, you hear it and you feel it, and there's this reverberation around the island. And I was reading a book about Shetland actually, about someone who was stuck there during COVID, and she mentioned how scary it was coming on this ferry, and it had never considered to me that the sea would be anything but comforting. I know it is dangerous, but there's just something about having that coastal weather, sound, access to swimming and snorkeling that is just my favourite thing about being here.
Do you like swim and sail and sort of
Yeah.
do hobbies within the sea?
Yeah, so I actually just went out with a friend recently to do some snorkeling around the coast, and it's just amazing seeing underneath, because you don't really see underneath it how vibrant and diverse, the life is under the sea. But yeah, sea swimming, we used to always have done that from a small child, and I know it's had this resurgence in popularity. But yeah, I do enjoy a cold dip every now and then. And where I work now, we're based on the end of a pier, so I get to, you know, look out over the water during my break times and lunch times. So I'm very fortunate.
And what do you think is the biggest challenge about living in an island?
I think for me, there's a bit of a pull around what we expect from a modern lifestyle and how easy or hard it is to access that on an island. So basically getting on and off the island is probably one of the hardest things, but also, we don't really live a cosmopolitan kind of lifestyle with access. I mean, we're lucky in Orkney, we've got great eateries and we've got decent nightlife and things like that, but accessing kind of these wider, more global cultural things, gigs or festivals, or, just popping off for the weekend to see a garden somewhere, things like that, I think to me are the most challenging. I suppose that's lucky in a way that I haven't need to call on health services or anything too much. Probably just the age group thing, but for me it's that kind of draw to, you know, modern access and, you know, being rooted in the traditional lifestyle kind of, for me is a bit of a dual thing, plural thing.
And have you seen any positive changes in Orkney in recent years?
I think that we are lucky in a way in Orkney, maybe proximity to the mainland, but Although we do have our demographic challenges, I think on the whole we have seen kind of a reasonably stable level of population. And there are always really enterprising people that come to live here that start businesses or enterprises. Um, and like I said, our main street in the town is very vibrant. We've got nightclub and a bowling alley and all the different eateries and coffee shops. So I think those have been really positive things that have a great impact on the community, and just people willing to take a bit of a risk and keep that kind of development going. And I always think that, yeah, that's always great to see that kind of positive development that's really sensitive to the Orcadian culture. Yeah, it's really great.
Yeah, I've heard about the nightclub
I have to come and
through.
try.
I know like people in Orkney Young Farmers, particularly Harry. Everyone's
Yeah.
always talked about, oh, like nightclub.
Woo, it's great. And it's like, there's loads of different events and probably more for my age group, the day clubbing. But local DJs getting a shot, and traditional music being in there, and the World Cup events are going to be held there. So it's really nice to have, I think, post-COVID, that those gathering spaces again, because we're all just kind of in our own homes, and I think people are wanting to come out and socialise, and it's really nice to have, that being a
Yeah,
feature of that.
I always remember when it wasn't long I'd started like my job in Mbekula in US, and I'd heard through friends that one of the village halls it started like a shisha bar. And I remember
Yeah.
going to work and being like, oh yeah, like the shisha bar, and my colleagues were like, what?
What?
Like I was like, yeah, yes, a shisha bar, and they're like, we
Excellent.
could not believe it. They're like, not on an island, not like,
Surely
there's
not.
no
So
way.
just to not compute. I think that's a really nice thing about islands as well. And I think I found that, like, when you're going off presenting and you're speaking about the islands, and people have this view, like quite a maybe romanticized view, or it's a little bit mystical because it's kind of not many people live here. So people are always keen, but yeah, they have these preconceptions about what an island's like. But then you can be like, well, we know we do have a nightclub, or we do have a shisha bar, or that there's something there that's enterprising that I think conveys some of our like traditional values forward. Having this enterprising mindset is just key to an islander's identity, isn't it?
What gives you hope for the future of island communities?
I think there's just a lot of inertia, positive momentum around islands. So I know there's challenges coming forward, but there's groups rising up to tackle the challenges. There's policy being put in place, that's identifying and outlining the challenges. And I think, that not only for our island communities, but for communities elsewhere that are facing similar challenges with the structure of the world today, these are kind of models that other places can adopt and bring forward as well, that kind of, I don't know, not to sound too woo, but that power of the connection between people that creates something a little bit bigger than just the individuals themselves. So I think for me, that's what gives me hope and brings me joy about working and living in the islands. And people are willing to just get up and put some effort into the challenges. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for your younger self? I feel like I'm like, are you old enough
Yes, too.
to
Yeah,
answer this
definitely.
question? But yeah, we can still go for it.
Yeah, I think there's always this rush to kind of go away. And I think there is this element of it being a requirement for a lot of young islanders that, they need to go away and experience other things. And that's totally um, right. But that it's okay if that's not your path, and that you want to stick around, because things come to the island and loads of opportunities come to the island and visitors come to the island, and that you'll find this really invigorating, fulfilling path by having visitors come and see the island, and it's almost like stepping off the island in a way. So it's just to be confident in that island identity, and I think it's taken me all this time and studying islands to kind of feel really proud and accepting of that island identity as not something less or backwards or parochial, and actually it's, just what you need to be doing. So that's my advice to my younger self, is just, to be confident in that island identity.
Yeah, I feel like there's always that, I guess, the grass is greener sort of when you're growing up, like, oh, like I wish I lived somewhere else. And then when you were at school, did you feel that sort of sense of I want to go away when you were sort of thinking about university?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of how the school's set up, that people who kind of attain certain grades are kind of pathwayed out of, into degrees, which is great. And, I love my education. I love having done my PhD. But that if it takes you a little bit longer, or you want to go and get work experience in the meantime, that you can always come back at any time. Do the work at school. Is what I tell my son, you're not getting out of it. But actually, you can always catch up. And I think, to me, having the institutions like the UHI that are based on the islands, that kind of let you do regional topics, where you are, when you're working, that's just been so fundamental to helping me attain, rather than having to go through university, at 17, and having to, have to fit in with a whole different culture and everything. So I think it's just, yeah, you're kind of, I don't know, rooted in a certain a way, which, is fine, and you can't do all the subjects and things like that as well. But yeah, once you get out there, there's loads of different things you can do. You can do them from home. And I think that's just been, yeah, enriched the islands even further, that you can have that route as well.
Just moving on to some sort of SIF related questions. So how long part of Scottish Islands Federation? What made you want to join the board?
I joined at the end of 2025. I think it was around October time. But I had worked with or met quite a few of the directors over various years as well, and I'd come across it in my PhD studies, obviously on the National Islands Plan. But kind of what I was saying earlier on about having the wider networks of island groups and different communities and different issues, I think that's really, really important. And I think it's really important for islanders to have that route into government and to inform policy and communicate policy in various directions. And I think some of the work that SIF's already done about, broadband provision and looking at childcare and their manifesto about island issues, I think it's just really great work. And all of the directors have got amazing experiences and job roles, and yeah, go-getting people in their areas. It's just, yeah, very inspiring. So that's why I wanted to join, to carry forward that information and be part of something that was just a little bit bigger than my island on its own.
You've potentially already answered this question, but I'll ask it anyway.
Yeah.
Why do you think having organisations like SIF are worthwhile?
Well, I think that there's this tone that goes round in islands that all islands are different, and they are all different. We have our own cultural identity, but in terms of politics and policy and some of the issues around public service, a lot of the issues that islands experience are actually very similar around housing and transport, connectivity, childcare, and all those kind of things. So I think where we can gather, like I said, the scale of these issues are actually happening on all of the islands. And I think that's really important to have organisations like SIF to say, yeah, we've got an issue with housing. Here's what the islands are saying the issues are, and this is actually a universal issue for islands. I think that's so important for translating, the policy into action that suits islands. So yeah, that's why.
Yeah, no, that's a really nice point, and I think our events that Kirsty sort of works hard to put on, and just having everyone from different island perspectives putting their sort of feedback in, I think is so like important for it. Thank you so much for giving up your time. I feel like it's been really interesting just getting to know you a little bit better as one of our directors, and sort of hearing your answers to all the questions.
Just a reminder that you can still listen to the rest of our Island Voices episodes on our YouTube if you're interested. And also feel free to pop us a message if you yourself maybe would like to be interviewed, or know somebody on one of the islands that has a particular story that you think is worth sharing.